Now, the agenda for the session that we have today, again, it's about the holiday season and how to get ready with those ads. So first, we're going to talk about a concept that we call automation layering. And it's about how to take more control from the engines like Google when so much of what they do is becoming automated, and that's potentially getting in the way of some of the management strategies that you have. So we'll talk about that concept. And then I'm going to shift into a live product demo, and we're going to talk about Shopping Campaign Builder 2.0. So that is a brand new tool. We just put it in the interface earlier this morning, so you'll be the first ones to see this. And then I'll show you how you can do a shopping analysis. So for example, if you were to use smart shopping campaigns from Google, so these fully automated shopping campaigns, you might still want to know what Google's doing, how things are going, and we have a great shopping analysis tool that can help with that. We also have the ad optimization tool that's for about a quarter now, but many of you may not have tried it, so I wanted to show you what you can do with that in terms of finding your best performing seasonal creatives from the past holiday season and how you can then use that information to spin up new ads for the upcoming holiday season. And then if you haven't done RSA's responsive search ads, I want to show you the RSA Builder tool. That'd be a great place to make sure you've got it updated with your holiday and seasonal creatives. And then I also wanted to talk about Rule Engine. So Rule Engine, you can use it to monitor smart bidding, automated bidding. So yeah, even if you go on automated bidding, remember automated bidding automates an aspect of bidding, but it doesn't automate bidding from start to finish. So there's still certain things that you can do that will make your campaigns perform better. Specific example is your competitors may be setting more aggressive targets during the holiday season because they know it's such an important time of the year. And so because that, your position may actually drop, and you may start losing more impression share with your current target CPA or target ROAS. And so here's a little automation that we have that will tell you when this is happening, and it can even automatically respond to what your competition is doing. So I'll give you an example from that. But first, I wanted to talk about automation layering, right? And so automation layering is this concept that we've been thinking about, which basically says that automation is not the exclusive domain of Google, right? You have the power to automate too. So when we talk about all the sophisticated and super advanced artificial intelligence that Google has, we don't have to do artificial intelligence to still get really good results from some automations. Now, kind of to give more context to this, and I'll put it in presentation here, but so basically, I think we can all agree as PPC pros that you're going to get better results by combining automation plus the human element. So if you have the little robot from Google that's doing a bunch of stuff to your account, if you put a human on top of that, you're generally going to get better results than if you just let the robot and the automation do things completely by itself. So that's the concept of humans plus machines are better than machines alone. So most of us would agree to that. Now, what that does mean is we have to do more manual work to monitor these machines and automations from Google. No, thank you, right? Like, we're all busy enough. We don't want to have to do that. So how do we solve that problem? Well, what we can do is we can actually think of some methodologies that we use to monitor the machines and the automations from Google. And if we can write down the steps in the process that we normally go through, we can then probably communicate that process to our own little robot, our own little automation. And that automation in this case could be your Optmyzr rule engine, one of the tools that we have. And now your automation starts to control Google's machine learning. So instead of you being in the mix right there, that gets replaced by your friendly little robot. And now that's still providing you better results than if the Google automation was just running completely by itself, right? And that automation that we talk about could be something just as simple as sending an email if some condition goes out of bound, right? So if you have automated bidding in place, and you notice that one day your CPC is really, really high, well, maybe just get an email so you can go check up on it and make sure that you've set all the right criteria for the automation. We've actually got some case studies from an agency out of the UK that was doing exactly this, and they were able to use the Optmyzr rule engine to improve on the automated bidding that Google was doing. So let me give you a really specific real example here, right? So most of us know about close variance, this new match type that Google introduced back all the way in 2014, but it's been evolving. So even as recently as a couple of months ago, Google said for phrase match and broad match modified, we're going to show keywords or your ads for keywords when it's basically the same meaning, right? So, and it used to be that an exact match no longer had to be an exact match. Now that's also extending to phrase match and broad match modified. So the example you can see here on the bottom of the slide is if you have a keyword flower arrangement as an exact match keyword in Google, well, they would consider something like arranging flowers to be quote unquote the same meaning. So it's a close variant, so they might still show your ad for that. Now, I would argue with that. I would say if somebody's looking for flower arrangement, that kind of sounds like they're looking to buy a flower arrangement. But if somebody searches for arranging flowers, I think they're probably just looking for a YouTube video of how to do it themselves. So the commercial nature of that query is much, much lower. So I would want to be in control of maybe setting a different bid or maybe even excluding that sort of a query from the system. So how do you take back that control from Google? Well, so we have a rule engine recipe. I'm going to show this to you live in the system in just a bit, but it basically generates a list that says, here's the exact match keyword, and here was the close variant search term for that. So it wasn't exactly exact, it was close enough. And so you can see in our case, it's mostly misspellings of our brand name, right? So this is actually really good for us. It's really beneficial because I don't have to think of every possible way that the word optimizer could be misspelled, and that's quite a few ways, unfortunately. But there you go, right? So at least it's putting the information in your hands, and it puts the power in your hands to take some control. And if you think about it in a different way, so I'll explain this chart, but look at that middle section. Those are your exact matches, and that green circle, those were the queries that were an exact match to the keyword. So it was a very limited set, but it was in the green area because you knew it was exactly what your keyword was. But then Google comes along and says, well, now we're going to do close variants for your exact match keywords. And now you get this big red circle all the way on the outer edge. And some of these keywords and queries that they're starting to include are okay, right? So they're still in the green area, but sometimes they kind of get into the red, so they're not quite as relevant anymore. Now, our premise is that you can use automation layering and build your own system that's doing some level of monitoring, either based on semantic closeness or based on the performance of what the metrics show you. And based on that, you can set that little gray dotted circle in the middle that says, okay, well, Google's trying to do this big red thing, but we're going to scale it back. We're going to bring it back based on some thresholds and some automations that we set. And so you can, in fact, use Optmyzr to achieve exactly this on an automated basis. So let me shift into a live demo here. And by the way, if there are any questions, do put them in the questions box, preferably, then I'll see them and try to answer them for you. Okay, but live demo. So the first thing I promised we would take a look at was the shopping builder. So the shopping builder is a tool we've had for quite a while. It's very popular to build out your perfect shopping campaign structure. Now, the tool that's been available for quite a while has been limited in that you had to have an existing campaign to populate. So even if that was a shell campaign, you had to start with that. Now we've made that much easier. So in the old tool, which you will find under optimizations for shopping campaigns, campaign builder, there's a link that will take you to the new tool. So in this new tool, it's a wizard. And remember, the point of this tool is to take your Merchant Center feed and turn it into the perfect combination of campaigns, ad groups, and product groups based on exactly the structure that you have in mind, but do this very efficiently, very quickly, right? If you've built this out manually in the past, you know it can take literally, I mean, personally, I've actually spent days building this out, but now we can do it in a matter of minutes. Okay, so two options. You can create new shopping campaigns or work on an existing one. I'm going to assume here for a minute that we're going to build out new campaigns. So we grab the merchant feed. So if you have multiple merchant feeds, they will show up in here. If you don't have one linked, just use that button right there to set up your link. And now we get to choose whether we would like to build standard shopping campaigns or smart shopping campaigns. Remember, the smart shopping campaign is the one that doesn't really have any product group structure. It's simply all of the products that you want to cover, that you want to sell, and then Google sort of figures it out. So it's much more automated, much less control. I'll show you some tricks for how to still get a little bit of control if you do decide to choose this one. So for the demo, we're going to do standard shopping campaigns. Okay, now here's the new thing that's kind of cool. So instead of having to have a pre-built empty shell campaign, I can say we want to create multiple campaigns and we want to build them, for example, based on something like category 0. By the way, this number 100%, 55%, that shows how many products in the feed have a value set for this attribute. So that means if I was to build campaigns based on custom attribute 2, only 80% of my products would fit within that. So 90% of my products would not have a home. That would be bad. So we recommend we start with something that has 100% coverage. This tells me right here, we're going to have 5 variations. So this is going to generate 5 different campaigns, and all 75,000 and so products will have a home. Okay, so the next thing we get to do is specify how we're going to create our product groups and our ad groups. So we can do a split by any of the levels of data that we have here. So I'm going to go product type 0, product type 1, and all the way down to the individual item ID level. And I can also choose at what level of this breakdown to make my ad groups. So I don't want to get too aggressive here, so maybe I'm going to do ad groups at that first level. Now, if you don't quite know what this means, don't worry. We'll get to a page that's going to preview exactly what it looks like, and you'll get a better sense. Okay, so but first now, for these new campaigns that we're going to be creating, what are the settings you want to deploy? What's your budget? What kind of naming convention do you want to have? So I'll just prefix my name on the campaign. That'll make them easier to find. You can also set up a campaign group name, so that's a structural element in Google Ads. So we'll go through that now. We're doing the bids and the budget. So basically it's saying, well, we're going to have these 5 campaigns, and you can already see the naming convention uses my prefix and then whatever the category 0 was. Tells us how many ad groups and product groups will be resulting in each of these campaigns. And it tells us the budget. So we can either make a bulk change and set every budget to the same thing, or we can individually tweak those values right there. And we can also do the same thing with our default starting bids. Okay, so from here, we go to the next page. Here's where we get the full build at. So if I wanted to understand what are the actual products, these 13,000 products in that second campaign, I can open this up and it shows me these are the ad groups. So it's going to be 52 roughly ad groups under this campaign. And then I can open them up and I can see exactly which products would be covered within this. Okay, so there you got some of the products. Okay, so if you like this, go ahead and apply. Of course, you can also go back and make some changes if needed. But once you click the apply button, there's an important question that we ask, and this is, do you just want to build this out once, or would you like us to build it and automatically keep it in sync as your product feed changes? The second option is really cool. So this is basically the new update to the shopping campaign refresher tool. So it will look at your merchant feed and it would say, in this example, it would say, oh, interesting, we just got a new Google category 0, which is this first level of the split that we have that defines the campaigns. You just added a new value for that to the feed. So it would be smart enough to know that that means you need to make a new campaign. So it would automatically go ahead and make that new campaign for you. Or if you have new products that you put in, it'll automatically and go put them in the right product group, the right ad group. And so it constantly keeps your data in sync with the structure that you want to run in Google Ads. So that's what the refresher option does. And then from here, when you submit the changes, I'm not going to do it in this case, but you will see a log that tells you how many changes have been made. And that could take 20 minutes, right? So that is a page you can actually walk away from. You can even close it out. Once you hit the submit button, that job goes into the queue and then we'll handle it for you. So it's a really nice way to build out the perfect shopping campaign structure. So I'm not sure if there's any questions on this. Do put them in the chat box or in the question box if you want. But that's the shopping campaign builder 2.0. Now, I promised I would show you a way that you can get more information. Say, for example, if you are using smart shopping campaigns, right? So in a smart shopping campaign, Google is handling the bidding for you. They're handling the targeting. So there's not really a lot of insight you get from it. Now, we have a shopping campaign analysis tool. It's under the Insights menu. And I actually pulled this data from an account that had a bit more interesting data. But what it's showing is you get to look within one campaign or multiple campaigns, you get to run an analysis based on some attribute that's in there. Okay, so here I've said within a smart shopping campaign, I would like to know how my performance is based on the price of the product. And so what we do is we figure out every product within that campaign, we figure out what kind of price range it's in. And here you can see we've automatically picked price ranges like $0 to $12, $12 to $18, etc. And then here we're comparing that to the number of conversions. So looking at this account, it looks like $36 to $42 and $104 to $160 is where the majority of the conversions are coming from. Now this is a screenshot, so I can't change this, but in the tool itself, you can also change this to return on ad spend. So you can very easily start to figure out what is my most profitable product price. Now, if you start to see that there's big differences in performance, that could be a good indicator to maybe exclude some of the products from the smart shopping campaign or to build out multiple smart shopping campaigns. And in fact, what we recommend is in the shopping builder tool, that when you say that you're going to build smart shopping campaigns is to maybe use one of your custom attributes. A really good way to do it would be to use one of your custom attributes to define sort of the margin level of the product, because the target ROAS that you set, probably you're looking to make profits, right? So to make profits, you need to know what is the margin for each product, and that then informs you what kind of level of bids you need to have and what kind of performance you need to have to be break even or profitable. So making at least multiple smart shopping campaigns is generally a best practice. I've even talked to Google about that, and Google seems to agree that you want to split out your smart shopping campaigns based on margins or performance data. Okay, so that's tool number one. So the next tool I want to take you into is the new ad optimization tool. So it falls under the optimizations menu. It's the ad text optimization tool. Okay, so some of you may have played with this, but I wanted to put this in context of the holiday season, right? So what I might want to figure out is last year during the holiday season, what kind of headlines, description lines worked really well for us. So that's exactly what this tool does. It does an aggregation across all of the selected campaigns and your selected date range. In this case, I've set the date range to last year's holiday shopping season, kind of Q4 right there. And so it says, well, the headline Optmyzr award-winning tool count 42. So that means this headline is being used in 42 different ads in 42 different places. And these are the aggregated statistics for that specific headline. Okay, and now we can start to understand, are certain pieces of text that we've used in headlines or in descriptions, are these performing better or worse than others? Now, where it gets really interesting is if you've done a couple of different promotions last year. So, you know, free shipping nowadays be standard, but if you wanted to figure out like free shipping at $30 versus free shipping at $50, if that was part of that text, you could actually go ahead and run a little filter here. So you filter on the words that you know are going to be present. And now here I can see, while we use this description line 10 times and this one 2 times, not a whole lot of sample data here, but for your account, you may actually have really good data. So you can start to figure out how many conversions did we get per impression for these different description lines that we've used. Now, if you find that one of them is underperforming, you can simply click on that and you could change the values, right? So if you have a different special offer that you're making a different value, you can update it right here. So I click on that. I do the update. It's not updating it yet in AdWords. So that's going to happen in a minute, but it shows me now this is modified description line 1. Okay. You can also run a filter. So you can say, I just want to see the modified stuff, or I just want to see stuff with warning. So for example, if I had made this text too long, then I could look for that. So once you're happy and you've made all your changes, that's when you can do preview and apply. So no new ads will be created, 2 ads will be modified. I can choose what sort of labels to put on this, and then I can apply those changes to the Google Ads system. Now, there's another thing you can do. So if you have been running Black Friday 2018 ad text last year, and you just quickly want to replace that to be relevant to the current year, you could say, I'm going to look for the text, and in this case, I'm going to look for 2015. and I want to replace it with 2019, and I want to do it across all of my components of ad text. And what I want to do is I want to replace it, but I could also create new ads. So this could be interesting actually if you want to do an A/B test with different values. So you could say leave the old ads alone, but make new ones where we replace 2015 with 2019, and then I can replace, and now it's calculating. And so in this case, it actually says no changes to be made, and I think that's because I had this additional filter right there. So let's try that again. Okay, so in this case we have 47 new ads created. So keep in mind this filter. Search filter runs on top of this one, so just make sure this is clean when you run this tool. But now, if I want to understand what are my new ads, I click on the new button, and so I can see there's one new headline that we're going to be running, and I can look across the various components of ad text. No new headlines 3, no new description line 1, right? So I can see all of the changes that would be made. And again, I can preview this here, 47 new ads, 2 modified ads, apply those changes, and I'm done. So great way to look at what worked last year and quickly apply some changes to that make it relevant for the current holiday shopping season. So that is the ad optimization tool. Now, the other thing you might want to do is run responsive search ads. So these are ads where you submit multiple headlines to Google, up to 15 different ones, and multiple description lines. And then Google is going to combine these pieces of ad text in the way that they think is going to drive the best performance. So if you haven't yet set these up, that would be a good time to also do so and maybe put in some seasonal creative. So we do this one campaign at a time, but what's cool is we'll do the entire campaign in just a couple of seconds as opposed to the many minutes or even hours it can take within the Google tool. So, and this also works, by the way, with experimental and draft campaigns. Okay, so if you have a draft campaign that you want to turn into an experiment so that you're testing RSA versus no RSA, you build out a draft campaign in Google Ads, save it, and then you can use this tool to actually populate the draft campaign with responsive search ads, and then you can go back into the Google interface and launch this draft as an experiment. So it's a really fast way to do a proper experiment of using RSAs versus no RSAs. Anyway, I'm just going to choose an existing campaign here, and then I'm going to tell the tool that it should be making new ads based on my existing ad components. So obviously we all have expanded text ads, so why don't we take the existing headlines and descriptions from that to populate new ads. So it says for this particular ad group, we have 4 variations of the headline, 2 variations of the description, and you can scroll through the whole list here of ad groups within that campaign. Now, what's kind of cool is if I wanted to add a seasonal creative, something to do with Black Friday 2019, I can just put that in, and it's I can do it just for this one ad group, or I can say do it for all of my ad groups that I haven't approved yet. Okay, so now Black Friday 2019 is in here. You notice any of these other ones that I go to also has that new component of ad text. So it's a very fast way to make that change. If I decide I actually didn't want to put in the year, I can make that modification in all of the unapproved ones. Once I look at this and I say this is approved, I can individually approve them. It turns it green right there. Or I can say I want to do a bulk approval. Okay, so now everything's approved except for a couple of ones because they only have 1 description line and Google requires at least 2 description lines. So I could say make a description line 2, add it in everything that's not approved, approve everything, and now everything has become green, and I can do a review on this. And it tells me exactly how many new ads will be created in which campaigns and ad groups, and I can upload those into the system. So a very fast way to make bulk edits and bulk creation of responsive search ads. Now, responsive search ads, the goal obviously is that they work really well because it's using machine learning to show the ad to the right user at the right time. But how do you know that's actually working? So this is pretty exciting. As of this morning, we launched a new capability in our A/B testing tool for ads. So you'll find that tool right here, A/B testing for ads. Now, the new option that we've just added is to compare expanded text ads to responsive search ads. Generally, the philosophy is that you should only compare expanded text ads to expanded text ads and responsive to responsive. But based on some of the feedback we've gotten, we've decided to add expanded compared to responsive as well. So now what this is doing is it's color coding your winners and your losers. So let's look at this example ad group right here. So in green, we've highlighted the statistically significant winners on the basis of conversion rate and conversions per impression. We didn't have enough data to make a conclusion on CTR. That's why these are not color coded. These additional columns on the right side are more for your information. So these are not used to make the decision, but they give you additional insight that you might want to use to make your decision. Okay, so and you can see this is a responsive search ad because it has this link to view asset details. This is an expanded text ad because there are no additional asset details. This is the entire ad right here. So you can see the winner for us in this case is in fact the responsive search ad. But we've put in multiple responsive search ads, and this one is a loser. So this has gotten 972 impressions and driven absolutely no conversions. So that is obviously a bit of a waste, considering that we have this other responsive search ad that is actually converting. So what we would want to do in this case is select this one for removal. Right, so we would choose all the ones that don't work out. We can remove those, and we could also automate that decision. So using the buttons here at the top, we can say we actually want to automatically remove the ones that have a conversion rate loss, so that I don't have to manually check those boxes, but it's already going to be done for me, right? So here it's already done. And then I click the button at the top right that says pause the selected ads, and now all of these underperforming ones are just going to be removed. So very quick and easy way to compare RSAs to ETAs. Let's shift focus here and let's talk about rule engine. So if we're going to be doing something like automated bidding, right? A lot of people nowadays, they use target CPA, target ROAS bidding, and they kind of assume that you don't have to do anything else besides set a bid, and then Google just handles it. But think about that for a second, right? That probably doesn't make a lot of sense, because during the holiday season, some of your competitors might get more aggressive with their bid strategy and might set a more aggressive CPA or ROAS target. If you're not paying attention, your existing target may actually start to lose you more impression share. So how do you monitor that? How do you find out this is happening, and how do you automatically take action? Well, we've built an optimization right here. You can just click on this one, optimize target CPA and ROAS, and it's going to find those instances when you're losing too much impression share. But this was built on top of the rule engine. And what's cool about the rule engine is that we show you exactly the logic that we go through. So this is the logic. You can copy this into your account, and you can set different thresholds, different criteria. And now this is a rule engine. So let me explain briefly what the concept of the rule engine is. It's basically a series of if this, then that type of conditions. And it's a whole sequence of them, right? So we have, in this case, 5 things that we check. So if these conditions are met, go and make this change. If not, go on to the next thing and try this one. And we keep going down that list, and we do this for every single, in this case, ad group of the account. We could also do this for product groups if you're doing shopping ads, or we could do it for campaigns or keywords or queries. So we can do quite a few things here. But then each of these conditions is fully customizable. So here where we say that the conversions need to be greater than some level, well, this happens to be a custom variable that we've put in, but we can also put in a constant number, or we can build out a formula. And to do sort of a silly formula, but I could say it has to be greater than 1 plus 3, okay? But maybe we make it more interesting and we do 1 plus 3, but we multiply that by the current bid. Okay, so that's kind of a silly thing, but it shows you the power that you can actually build out a formula that's exactly yours. Now, if we use something that's metrics-based, we will be looking at the scope as well as the date range. So you have your custom date ranges, or the, pre-built ones right here, but you can also customize these. So if you wanted to ignore the last 5 days of data, you can actually go into the rule engine and create a new date range that ignores those last 5 days, fully customizable. So you can build this out like this. And so then you can set, of course, different actions as well. So when it comes to the actions, we can say we're going to modify the target CPA, or we're going to put a label on something, or we just want to include something in the report so that it emails it to us and we know something is happening. So really a lot of flexibility in terms of how you string these rules and conditions together. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And so then if you run something like this, we'll present you with a table of all the suggested bit changes. So that would be quite useful. So I'm going to make this go back to the custom variable, minimum conversions right there. So this isn't going to be broken. Okay, so let me show you another rule that you can do. So I promised at the beginning we would look at close variants, right? So how do you know what Google considers to be a close variant for your account? We have some instant recipes. So report on close variants right here. You can add this one to your account. If you add this to your account, and I'm not going to do it here because I've got too many instances of it already in my account, but the outcome from that is something like this. So it's a big table and it says, okay, what is the matched keyword? Okay, so this is an important column. So it matched the keyword Optmyzr, which was an exact match keyword. But what is the search term somebody typed in? Optmyzr. So it's clearly, again, a typo of the company name. And you can look down this list and see that in most cases, it's exactly that, it's typos. But here it gets more interesting. So here we had a phrase match that wasn't exactly matched. So Google AdWords keyword tool was matched to keyword search tool Google, right? So there's clearly some words that are different in here. And the sequence has not been preserved. So now I can look at this and I can know what Google considers to be a close variant, and I can make decisions on this. This is purely a report, or you could say, well, we actually want to make a new keyword, right? So we're going to make a new negative keyword. So it's a negative ad group level exact keyword. So, so you can do that and start automating. And then basically the way that you can say what should be a negative keyword is, well, you look at the metrics. And what's cool here is look at these two columns, average CPC. We have two columns. Well, one of these is for the search term performance and one is for the keyword performance. So let's look for a good example here. But we see for this case, our keyword average CPC is $1.34 for the keyword Optmyzr. But for the typo, where they've reversed the RNZ, we're actually spending $2.50 per click. That's good to know, right? That's interesting. Maybe this is more expensive for some reason. Maybe a competitor's buying that one as well. Whereas here we have a really cheap query. But what's cool is we can use these numbers, these metrics, as part of the logic in the rules to say, oh, well, if we see a big discrepancy between these two numbers, that's when we want to make it an exact match negative. Otherwise, maybe we just keep running on it. Let's see, question. So the question is, when using Google's bidding strategies, does it make sense to pause ads going forward since Google just does not serve the ad as much or at all anymore? So I'm of the opinion that I still want to keep my account clean. So if I find an ad that's just not getting a lot of impressions, not a lot of share of that ad group, I probably just want to pause it. Because we, for example, we have an audit tool, right? And so I'll show you this, but in policy and audits, you can run an audit on your account. And if you promise your clients that you're going to be doing quite a bit of ad testing and at least providing Google with new variations of stuff, you know, you could look at ad groups with too few expanded text stats, right? So you could say, oh, cool, all of my ad groups seem to have at least 2 different ads. But if you know that honestly, like one of those ads barely ever runs because Google's made that decision automatically, you're kind of tricking yourself into believing that you're doing more than you actually do. So for that reason, if I find it's not working, I would still remove it and maybe remind myself to still go and experiment, right? Because Google may be really happy with one variation, but that doesn't mean there's not another variation that you could put in that might still perform better. And even at the RSA level, right? Is there a new headline you could have put in? And we've made that mistake. So if you look at our account, like we said, award-winning tool 2015, which is the first time we won that award. Now we've won it again in 2018. So, you know, we probably should update that, but right. And that's the type of stuff where you want to always be testing new stuff and keeping your ads up to date with what's actually happening. Okay. So, but that's a good question. Thank you, Erica. Now, the final thing I wanted to show you was, we'll go back to the rule engine here. So we do have a couple of other recipes. So Kirk Williams, he's kind of an influential PPC blogger and PPC Twitterer. And we have taken one of his methodologies. Where is it? To reduce cost. Yeah, I think it's right there. So we took one of his methodologies that he described in a blog post he did on Search Engine Journal, and we basically turned it into a rule engine recipe. And that's kind of cool, right? Because now here's what an expert says they're doing to manage their accounts, and we can actually go and customize that ourselves, and we can see what that person is doing. So here's a page full of thresholds. So like, what kind of conditions do you want to check for? But what's more interesting is like basically this page. So what is it Kirk would look at? So if my cost is greater than some minimum, and my current bid is pretty high, and my ROAS is kind of low, and my search impression share is really high, then maybe I want to back off and decrease that bid a little bit. So it's our starting point. It's an example of what you can do with the rule engine to really make it your own. The other thing you can do with the rule engine, and I'll show you from scratch how you would build it, you could say, I want to build my own recipe that looks at search terms for shopping campaigns. This is kind of cool, right? Because in shopping campaigns, it's really not that easy to see the query level data, and add negative management for shopping campaigns is one of the ways that you can still control the performance, right? And the way that we could do this is we could say, well, we just want to look at search queries for shopping campaigns. Now, obviously, this account is more than shopping campaigns. So let's look at the campaign level, and let's look at advertising channels. We're only going to look at queries that come from shopping campaigns. Okay, and now if these queries from shopping campaigns don't exist in our account, so if the search term exists as a keyword in the account, if that is equal to no, then we want to know about it, then we want to report on it, so include it in the report. So a very simple way to automate some of the things you probably already do by downloading reports, running them through Excel, making decisions on it. Well, here you can codify that in a very easy to do way. It's kind of like a different way almost of doing an AdWords script without actually having to write any lines of code. And then you have that here, right? And then you can preview these changes. And what's nice too is now that you've built this, you can actually use it across multiple accounts. So you build that recipe once, but as I switch to one of my different accounts, that recipe is still going to show up in the rule engine. And I can even make it a global recipe, so it shows up right here at the top level menu. So you build it once, and then you leverage it across all of the accounts, campaigns that you manage. So anyway, that's the demo. So hopefully you've taken away a couple of insights of what you can do to get ready for the holiday season. But here's your to-do list. So what you can try next is build the campaigns by products with similar margins, and do that automatically using the Campaign Builder 2.0, as well as the automatic refreshing capability. You can use the ad optimization tool to find what worked well last year and update with new current values and promotions within that. You can use the RSA Builder and the A/B testing tool for ads to do better RSA management. And you can use your rule engine to monitor smart bids and find out when your competitors may be getting more aggressive, and if that's costing you business. You can also use the rule engine to monitor your search and shopping queries. So these are just a few of the things. There's obviously much more you can do using Optmyzr and to get ready for the holiday season, but this was top of mind for me. So I'd like to thank everyone for attending today.